Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most incredible defection stories of the Cold War. Imagine stealing the fastest interceptor your country has. You fire up those engines, break from formation, drop to sea level, and sprint for another nation before your fuel tank hits empty. That's exactly what one Soviet pilot did in 1976. His name was Viktor Belenko. His aircraft? The legendary MiG-25 Foxbat. And his landing in Japan changed the Cold War forever. Before we jump into this amazing tale, please do me a huge favor. Smash that like button and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you think, keeping this channel growing. I'm grinding hard to turn this into my first car, so every single click and view matters. Thank you for your support. Now, back to our story. The MiG-25 was practically a legend long before anyone in the West ever got their hands on it. NATO gave it the code name Foxbat, and let me tell you, it looked like a rocket with wings. Twin tails, vast air intakes, a huge wing, and a heavy fuselage, all built to handle insane heat and speed. Its role was simple: scramble, climb to the very edge of space, and intercept enemy bombers and high-flying reconnaissance planes before they could even think about reaching Soviet cities. On paper, it seemed absolutely untouchable. Rumors flew that it was made entirely of titanium, that it could outfly anything, and some even whispered it could challenge the mighty SR-71 Blackbird. These rumors just kept growing because the aircraft was shrouded in secrecy, incredibly fast, and undeniably massive. Viktor Belenko was one of the pilots who flew these formidable Foxbats, stationed in the Soviet Far East. Life on base was strict. Food was scarce, fuel was rationed, and training was relentless. Political officers watched every single move. Belenko was young, ambitious, but also deeply frustrated. He saw the shortages on the ground, felt the immense pressure in the air. Over time, a daring plan began to form in his mind. He would defect. He would fly a MiG-25 out of the Soviet Union and land it in Japan. He told no one. He meticulously studied maps, watched the weather patterns, and calculated his fuel and navigation, using nothing but a stopwatch and a compass. He just waited for the perfect mission near the Sea of Japan. That chance finally arrived on September 6, 1976. His squadron launched for what was supposed to be a routine training flight: form up, climb, practice an intercept, and return to base. But Belenko had very different ideas. He broke away from his formation, dropping down to an incredibly low altitude. The wave tops flashed just below him. The MiG-25 was absolutely not meant to cruise at this height. It was designed for the thin air far above. Down low, the fuel burn was brutal, but flying low was his only way to stay off radar. He aimed for Hokkaido, watching the clock and the distant coastline. Every single minute ate up the precious fuel he needed to land safely. He reached Japan with almost nothing left in his tanks. He climbed briefly, frantically searching for a runway. Finally, he spotted Hakodate Airport on Hokkaido, a civilian field with scheduled traffic. He had mere seconds to commit. He lowered the landing gear and lined up. The Foxbat came in hot and incredibly long. He touched down, chewed up a bunch of runway lights, and finally skidded to a halt near the very end of the pavement. Police cars swarmed the scene. Civilians stared, absolutely bewildered. The most secret interceptor in Soviet service sat there, right between commuter planes. Belenko climbed down and, with a calm resolve, asked for asylum. The shock spread incredibly fast. Japan immediately sealed off the airport and secured the jet. The Soviet Union, predictably furious, demanded the aircraft and the pilot back at once. The United States, sensing an unparalleled intelligence coup, quickly asked to examine the machine. Japan, navigating a diplomatic tightrope, allowed a controlled technical inspection, promising to return the aircraft later. For Western engineers and intelligence officers, this was the moment they had literally dreamed about. All those rumors they'd heard for years could finally be checked against the real hard metal. Panels were taken off, bays were opened. Photographers documented every single cable and bracket. The first surprise was the aircraft's structure. The MiG-25 was not a titanium wonder. Most of its skeleton was actually stainless steel, with some special heat-resistant alloys in the hottest spots. Steel is heavy, yes, but it's cheap to produce. It handles heat incredibly well, and it allows for fast, simple welding at scale. In Soviet doctrine, these were the right trade-offs. The second surprise was the electronics. The radar and many of the systems still used vacuum tubes. To Western eyes, this looked ancient, but there was a logic to it. Tubes handle heat remarkably well. They're resilient to electromagnetic pulse in a nuclear environment, and crucially, they can be repaired in the field with basic tools. Again, the choice perfectly matched the mission. They meticulously studied the radar. It was powerful, designed to see large targets head-on at long range, working best in clear, high air. Then they examined the engines, two massive R-15 turbojets that delivered immense thrust at high altitude. Its operational speed was around Mach 2.5 for sustained flight. The jet could sprint even faster, but at the risk of engine damage from extreme heat and blade stress. The controls were heavy, the airframe incredibly strong. Everything about it served one singular idea: reach the target quickly at high altitude, fire long-range missiles, and return to base. This inspection completely reset the picture in the West. The Foxbat wasn't a universal fighter. It was a specialist. It was not a nimble dogfighter. It was a straight-line interceptor with extreme speed and climb capabilities. It guzzled fuel at low altitude and bled energy in tight turns. It had clear limits. But understanding these limits didn't make it weak. It made it predictable. Tactics could now be developed to exploit those very limits. Draw it low, force it into turns, deny it the high, fast intercept where it truly shined. The fear that it could do everything faded, replaced by a clear respect for what it actually did well. Belenko himself was debriefed for weeks. He spoke openly about training, readiness, and base life. He described how scrambles were run, explained missile employment, and detailed radar procedures. His testimony confirmed the trade-offs suggested by the jet's inspection. Soviet design favored strength, simplicity, heat tolerance, and rapid production. Airfields could be rough, winters harsh, and maintenance crews needed robust, easy-to-fix systems. The aircraft was built to these exact realities. His insights, combined with the hard measurements from the airframe, gave the West an absolutely complete picture. Diplomacy moved in parallel. Japan kept its promise. After the extensive inspection, the MiG-25 was carefully disassembled and crated. It was returned to the Soviet Union in pieces, delivered by ship. Moscow was, understandably, furious, but also pragmatic. Upgrades began almost immediately. Later Foxbat variants received better look-down radar that could filter out ground clutter, and new missiles improved both reach and guidance. The long-term answer became the advanced MiG-31, which kept the speed and altitude, but added more range, a modern phased array radar, and true look-down, shoot-down capabilities. It could hunt cruise missiles and bombers far from Soviet borders. Belenko's flight didn't end the program. It pushed it forward. The West also adapted. F-15 tactics were refined with new confidence. Electronic countermeasures were precisely tuned to known radar modes and frequencies. Pilots trained to shape the fight away from the Foxbat's strengths. Intelligence analysts discarded inflated estimates and replaced them with concrete numbers. Performance envelopes were accurately graphed. Radar displays were meticulously modeled. Fuel curves were precisely calculated. Myth turned into math. Decisions became clearer and more effective because they were grounded in actual measurement. It's worth clearing up a few myths that still linger today. The MiG-25 was not all titanium. Steel and simple alloys dominated by design. The Foxbat was not a universal fighter. It was an interceptor that excelled at high-altitude speed and climb, carrying missiles capable of threatening bombers and reconnaissance aircraft. It was never meant to mix it up low and slow. And those vacuum tubes? They weren't proof of backwardness. They were a perfectly reasonable, robust choice for heat, EMP resilience, and field repair in that era. Why does this story matter so much? Because one flight cut through years of rumor and fear. One landing put the truth directly on a light table. Engineers weighed parts, pilots studied avionics, commanders rewrote tactics, and policymakers recalibrated risk. The arms race didn't stop, of course, but it became a little smarter. This is how real knowledge changes strategy, not with speeches, but with screws, scales, and radar traces. Picture that runway at Hakodate again. A giant Soviet interceptor parked right next to civilian jets. Police lining the perimeter, spectators behind fences. A young pilot standing on the tarmac, simply asking for a new life. In that singular moment, the vast Cold War compressed into a human scale. A single choice altered aerospace design paths on both sides. And it also gave the world a rare, powerful reminder. Hardware tells the truth. Belenko received asylum and built a new life in the United States, even writing a book about his incredible journey. His decision had its costs and its critics, but it also had undeniable effects that no analyst could ignore. The Soviet Union hardened its air defense network and advanced its interceptors. The United States and its allies tuned their fighters, radars, and jammers to real data. Air crews trained to proven performance envelopes instead of vague rumors. Everyone became a little less blind. The MiG-25 remains an absolute legend. It still holds altitude and speed records that amaze to this day. Its brutal shape is honest about its purpose. Achieve height, achieve speed, fire missiles, survive heat, accept weight, accept drag, accept heavy controls. That is the equation it solved. When you truly understand the mission, all those design choices make perfect sense. The lesson here is bigger than just one airplane. Information wins. You can fear what you cannot measure, and you can overbuild to answer ghosts. Or you can open the panels, count the rivets, test the radar, fly the profile. Then you adapt with precision. In a world that still argues in the dark, this is a story about turning on the lights. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give it a like and subscribe for more Cold War stories. Drop your next topic idea in the comments below. Spy satellites? Doomsday systems? Submarine heists? Your idea might just be the next upload. Thanks for watching Cold File Room, and I'll see you next time.